Welcome everyone to this episode of Psycho Music Theater. Tonight I have the great pleasure to introduce the Reverend Horton, Dallas, Texas.
I'll applaud myself since no one else is here.
Somebody's gotta.
What are your impressions of Indianapolis?
That there's a lot of hot chicks.
You're in the center of Butler College, so.
And there's a lot of beautiful women, and there's a lot of really hot-looking girls, and that's my impression.
Outstanding. How was Milwaukee last night?
Milwaukee was wonderful. Wonderful show.
We heard it was a late night for you. Or more late than usual. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I've been working really hard at trying to record our band live, and I'm doing it myself with my own equipment, and it's a technical nightmare. So every day is something different. But I'm having to pull double duty. Having to set that stuff up all day, and the technical aspect and the mental aspect of why is that buzzing, that kind of deal, and have to do that, then do the gig, then stand up there in my green and purple suit, rapping chords as quick as I can, to get it all done so we can
doing your own production?
Get on the road. Yeah, I'm recording it myself. I got my own gear and everything, so.
Is it for a live album that's coming out?
I'd really like for us to do a live album.
Need
someday.
one.
That's why I'd like to do it, because there's always pitfalls with live albums. That's why 99% of the live albums you hear are not really live. What they do is they get a mobile truck, they come to the gig, they record the gig live, but when the guitar is a little screwed up here, they go, okay, we'll redo that in the studio. And so they go back in and redo the vocals too. Are a hard thing, because it's if you're trying to make a releasable CD, having the vocals be real kind of poppy and maybe a little fuzzier and maybe a little more in and out, then they would be more transparent and more audible if you had a nice studio microphone there, or you can't really use that type of microphone in a live situation. So a lot of those albums aren't, and I just got the idea, rather than get a truck and all that other stuff, I was just going to try to start recording as many shows as I could, and rather than have the whole show be all for one gig, I'd like to have, it's all going to be absolutely live, but it would be good to have some different cities, but that way, some of our fans in different cities would be, be able to say,
respond to that.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, I was there at that gig when they did these two songs here, or whatever, so.
Plus it gives you the chance to pick out the best performances.
We get a
of
little
that
best
song,
stuff, and there's certain stuff that happens on certain nights. We had the guys, Dave and Deke, sit in with us one night, and it was really, really good. And that maybe one song out of that deal would be kind of cool to include. But that's kind of how I'd like to do it, But there's a challenge there, because then I'd have to make it. It still would have to work and sound and have a feel of one whole show, So. Some nights we get stuff that's really good that, then the rest of the night it might not be okay, So we might get the bass for half the gig, and then all of a sudden somebody trips over the chord that's running me to the bass, and the next thing you know, we've only got half the night. That happens every night, something like that.
Miss a channel, or
something happens. So, but we're doing some fun stuff, and it should be good.
You have a new album, Spend a Night in the Box.
Right.
Your first album on Time Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about your relationship from Sub Pump, Interscope, the Time Bomb records?
Well, if he had a couple hours, yeah.
Without going into court.
I could talk about all this stuff. Well, because it is funny, because so many things happen, in the whole label thing, and that's one bit of experience that I now have after all these different labels and everything, and it's funny how things really never work out like you thought they would, or things never are the way they thought they would be, And so, I've got quite the interesting thing with labels, because, well, we always had something that was kind of screwing us up, you know. But, you know, and I look at the business side of it. You know, I'm a musician. I play guitar, you know. I mean, I'm not really dumb on the music side. I mean, the business side. But, you know, I'm naive. We have great people and people that work with me that are really smart in aspects of that. So, but it's been interesting. I've learned a lot, you know. Our first album was Sub Pop. You know, one reason they signed us to begin with is, well, we were different than anything else they had, even though they were really still trying to look for the next Nirvana that would make them another $50 million or whatever. So they signed us because we were playing the same venues as Nirvana and Soundgarden and their other bands, and then here we are on the road. We've already got a following across America. You know, bam, okay, we love you guys, we want to sign you, fine, you know. But then we ran into the problem where, you know, when we went to have a big meeting with them about recording our second album, you know, we lined up this big meeting and we showed up in Seattle. We were there playing a gig, and we were there waiting for the meeting with the guys from Sub Pop, and they came to us and they said, listen guys, we can't have this meeting with you guys today because Love Battery's in town. You know, we have to take this meeting with Love Battery, I'm sorry. And we're like going, who's Love Battery?
That's on me.
And so that little instances like that is stuff that they don't remember, but we remember like it's the most important thing that happened to us, you know. So, you know,
that's a shame they're so corporate like that.
So anyway, our first album came out and they put it out, but they just kind of work, you know, labels work your record for a few weeks, everybody in the label, then everybody in the label goes off and works another record, and you're basically done, you know. So that kind of happened, and then we released our second album. By the time we finally got around to doing the second album, they were more enthusiastic about the band. But when that album came out, they also managed to get themselves in a lawsuit with their distributor. So as soon as our second album came out, we were on a label that didn't have distribution at all. So they were just trying to hustle it themselves. You know, so it's kind of amazing that album did as well as it did. That was the full custom.
I was going to say, that one did probably
pretty well. Our third album was on Interscope and Time Bomb. And Sub Pop.
Oh, you were like
kind of
between.
A split label. But really, it was Interscope. And Interscope, was really into promoting that album, and they were really hot on us at the time.
Smoke or Liquor in the Front.
Liquor in the Front. Well, that album came out, and Interscope wasn't really hot on the record. The guys that signed us to the label, and Tony Ferguson specifically, loved it, heard hit songs, but he was really only one guy in a vast sea of billionaire power players, you know. And eventually he kind of lost his weight at the label, even though he's still there and he's still like the number 2 guy behind Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine's right-hand guy. So, I mean, he's still got a lot of power, but Jimmy Iovine isn't the manager of the label. It's a long story. Anyway, we had Sub Pop pushing that album. Interscope was hotter on us, or the hottest on us at that point. Liquor in the Front sold more copies than our other albums. So you can tell that when the label's there hot and pushing it, it really does help as far as the sales, you know. But we've all even then though, we've always been in a situation where commensurate to concert ticket sales, we sold far fewer CDs. You know, we were selling a lot of concert tickets, and still to this day, you know, to me that tells me somebody's not getting on the stick to work our record. But we always had, and then after that, it all got kind of a little dicey. You know, Interscope went cold on us and didn't really dig us, and we could see the writing on the wall after we did Space Heater and decided to look for a different label. That's when we switched to Time Bomb, which was more of an independent type of a...
Comfortable with Time Bomb? Better arrangement?
Oh yeah, except for one thing. Arista Records, when they fired Clive Davis, dropped a lot of his projects, bands and projects. Well, one of his projects was Time Bomb Records. So, according to my knowledge, Time Bomb Records is not going to be able to put out anything new because they don't have any money. And on top of that, the owner of the label told me, you know, they really have my hands tied to do anything with my own money. So, it was so we're not going to be on Time Bomb anymore. So our new record's on Time Bomb. But I've got this really cool deal that we did with Interscope, and we've done with Sub Pop too. You know, whenever they decide, well, look, we're not spending any more money on this record. This record's done. It's over. Okay. You know, one of those deals. You know, we're going. Oh, you know, great. We just started this tour 3 weeks ago. We've got 2.5 months left, and you guys are done. We're just starting, you know, promoting it. I don't know, man. I don't want to talk about business. All that is bullshit because labels and a lot of label people have forgotten the fact they need the artist. You know, an artist doesn't.
That's the first thing.
Right, and so many bands look at it like, oh, we need a record label. We could be recording artists. We need a record label. No, you need a band. You've got a band. Go play gigs. That's what you do if you play music. You go play gigs. You know, you don't sit around going, well, we need to spend a year recording an album. I mean, that's all. Right. So you know, I mean, that's kind of getting me now back in the more artistic thing. You know, we play music for artistic reasons. I mean, we're musicians. You know, I mean, we play music. Whether we've got a big record deal, whether we got, like, for instance, right now, we don't have a label officially. We're talking to people, but we're out here. We can afford to have a bus and tour. And
I don't think I've ever seen a band that tours as much as you guys do. It's just, I mean, do you ever stop?
300 times a year, I guess?
What we do instead of like concentrating and releasing a new record and then just going out for, you know, a 6-month tour of the U.S. and the world, and then it's over, then nothing for the next year or whatever. We just keep touring, but you know, we don't do it quite as. Since we just basically our setup is just to tour all the time, we can actually make it so where it's fairly easy on us. You know, we can go out for 3 weeks, come back for 2. Go back out for another 2.5 weeks, come back for a week, then go out for a month, then come back for a month and a half. So it all ends up being that, you know, it's a lot easier. I think those long tours what makes bands crazy, you know, when being away from your house for 4 months and
homeless.
yeah, that kind of deal.
Oh, aren't Jimbo and Scott married too? So
no, Scott's not married.
Oh, that's right. You and Jimbo are.
Me and Jimbo,
right?
Yeah.
Been overseas a lot this year. What's the reaction to American music overseas, though?
Oh, well, it's great. Well, especially we just discovered over in Australia they're really into the rockabilly thing, and well, rock and roll too. You know, it's a good rock and roll country. You know, so Australia was fun. Europe is, you know, fun. And we've been doing that for a long time, and we still don't do as well over in those places as we do in the States, but you know, someday we might. You know.
How'd you hook up with your drummer Scott? He's from Crown Point.
Well, you know, he ended up in Dallas, and I can't remember what band he played with to get him to Dallas. He was a Chicago guy, played with a lot of bands out of Chicago, and I think he played with KMFDM for a while, Sister Machine Gun, and was doing this techno.
Is he an industrial type?
Much different genre.
And then he got it, but he's played with a million different kinds of bands. He's just a really good drummer, you know. So then he got this gig with this thing called Jacko Pierce, which is this. It's like completely different than that. It's like this folk thing, you know, 2 guys singing folk songs, and basically that gig he was just up there with a snare drum and a kick and playing brushes, you know, with acoustic guitar guys, you know, but. You know, Taz quit, and we heard that he was a really good drummer. So, you know, when we auditioned him, you know, he learned the songs really fast, and so we were back up and running as a band, you know, thanks to him being quick enough to learn our songs, you know.
Was Taz still with Tenderloin, or who was he coming for
No, he
last?
had been with Tenderloin for a while. He was doing this gig with, it's not Izzy Stradlin. No, I think he was doing some gigs with Izzy Stradlin, yeah, and then Duff McKagan had this band, Loaded. He was playing in that.
GNR man.
Yeah, he got all tied up with those guys. But you know, that's you know, I think those bands, you know, kind of go in between, you know. So you know, he spends a lot of time in Dallas, and you know, I think he's doing some graphic design there and stuff like that.
So we have time for a couple more questions.
What current bands are you listening to? What's coming out that interests you?
Well, not much. No, I'm stuck.
Anything at all?
I'm stuck in my own world. You know, I mean, I really want to go get a Rammstein CD.
Oh, no, you don't.
Yeah, man, those guys are great, man. They're singing in German, and it's really scary. You can just imagine what they're singing. I know it's something about Satan and Hitler. It's scary as hell, you know. But I want to go to a record store and I want to ask for it. Like, I'm gonna go. I know it'll be in Dallas, so I know the guy will have a Texas accent. I'll go. I want a CD by Rammstein. And when he goes, "Oh, Rammstein," I'll say, "No, Rammstein."
It's an Air Force base.
But no, you know, I like a lot of the root stuff. You know, I really like bands like Dave and D Combo, Big Sandy, and Southern Culture on the Skids. You know, there's some punk rock bands that, you know, come through that, you know, I love. You know, like well, the Super Suckers aren't necessarily a punk rock band, but I love the Super Suckers, and
You need to tour with them again.
Yeah,
You haven't had them with you for.
It's been a while. But I like Hank 3. I like all of Hank 3 stuff, and you know, I'm still stuck, you know, listening to Nat King Cole and Dave Dudley. I think I'm going to really have to get heavily into Dave Dudley and truck driving songs in general. That's going to be the next thing.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.